everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today we continue our playthrough of Earth Under Siege Flashpoint. So we're going to pick it up exactly where we left it off. I have a few things I want to just highlight from the last video, which I also left in the pinned comment. So if you want to see any corrections or FYIs, you can check the previous video, but I'll go over a couple of those things that are good to know right now. So timing-wise, this is a perfect time to talk about the laser grid, which is right here, something we have to contend with now that we've cleared things up over here, although we do still have somebody sitting in this location here that will see us. We also have to contend with cameras that are looking down this way, this camera here looking all the way down the corridor, and we have another one way over here which is actually dealing with this corridor down here. We have to decide how we want to get through this laser grid. Now we know, because we chose the espionage strategy, that we got a gear card which we placed on Kyle, and Kyle has this ability, being that he's in a disguise, to be able to walk through those corridors where those security cameras are and not draw any attention. But not only that, also these patrols here as well as these units here from line of sight, from distance, are not going to pick up on him whatsoever. It's a different story if he happens to go into the same space as them, then he will have to go ahead and do a stealth check. He's forced into it because, well, they're still more aware when they're right side by side together. It makes thematic sense that they wouldn't really be able to distinguish him from distance, but if you get up too close to one of these patrols in yellow or one of these green blips right here that are stationary and unknown, well, they might find you, and then that might cause some grief. So we do have to think about that and how we're going to deal with it. Now, in terms of how we can get through this laser grid, that's another story. Inside of part number one, I talked about how we can potentially deal with this. There's a couple different ways. One is we could use the scanner here. It's a science check, as you'll see with the indicated icon. If we do this, this permanently disables this laser grid, meaning we won't have to deal with it anymore for the rest of the game. However, the check for science is high, but we could also use a different tactic if we wish. The other thing we have at our disposal here is an electrical box which sits inside the room that our squad currently resides in, and if we choose to sabotage this, that is going to give us a one-round window where the grid's going to go down, allowing someone to slip through. So the perfect person to use that kind of a strategy would be Kyle, being that he has the disguise on him. So if we can get the grid down at the same time as Kyle is near the grid, Kyle should be able to slip through. The other benefit of potentially going with the strategy of sabotaging the electrical box is a more permanent benefit. Now, as I just discussed here, if we mess and sabotage with this electrical box, we'll take down the grid for just one round, but also what goes into effect for the rest of the mission is a lights out condition, because we have essentially cut the power. And if we do this, then all operatives gain concealment until the end of the mission. So another benefit. Concealment gives you 2 automatic successes towards stealth checks, which is a huge advantage because thematically you've cut the power, it's darker, it's harder to see for the enemies to see you, and this is really going to be an advantage as well. For example, with Kyle, because he has a disguise, if he happens to get up close to some enemies, then that's going to be an advantage to be able to have that darkness on his side. So this is probably a good strategy for us right now. One correction from the prior video, which I did put in that pinned comment, is the Overwatch token. This actually does cost an order token in order to activate over to its opposite side. So you would have to spend one of these tokens in order to activate it. From there, it gives you a free attack in the situations I described in the prior video. You'll likely see this again, probably, I think, inside of this one. Something else worth mentioning, and again, this goes to the great streamlining that's going on inside of the development of this game, and that's towards the iconography. You can see here this passive ability here for Kyle says, once per round, make a melee attack that gains cleave or a ranged attack that gains burst. So this essentially is a passive ability. Basically, when you use an order token in order to make an attack, then you just gain the passive ability that is there. So where there could be some confusion is the icon for the order token is here, and what I did in the prior video was I not only spent an order token to do the attack, I then spent another order token to take advantage of the ability, thinking that it cost me. But this is a passive ability, so it doesn't cost me 2 order tokens. I spent more than I needed to there, and that's something that will be cleaned up in the final version, so nobody makes that miss like I did. With those out of the way, we can now continue our playthrough. Let's get going. So we pick things up inside the refresh phase at the very end of that refresh phase. Remember in the last video, we did a threat card. Now we move to the on-point operative switching within the squad. So it's moved from Marissa over to Olivia. You'll see the green token there on Olivia now. That goes to the left player, in this case to the left character or operative. One other thing worth mentioning is that if I sabotage the electrical box, not only does it take down the laser grid for a round, it also disables all the cameras for a round. All right, Kyle is going to use his disguise to his advantage to try to clear the way for the other operatives to get moving along without as much grief. We'll see if any backup is needed. Remember, I'm trying to avoid cameras here, but with the disguise that Kyle has on, he can slip around quite easily. So I'm going to kind of strain him a bit here. I'm going to use 3 movement tokens from his available pool. So that's a lot. That's basically how much I refresh in the refresh phase back. So all 3 are going to go into the exhausted area, giving him 6 movement and, of course, up to 3 door openings during that movement if he so chooses. What I'm going to do here is, well, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to probably curl around the north side of things. The camera's not going to see me because Kyle has a disguise on, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and go right into the space with the green blip. I'm going to choose to fail the stealth check. Again, you have to do a stealth check when you have the disguise on when there's an enemy in your space. So I'm going to choose to fail it. We're going to find out who's there, and then I'm going to hope that I have enough order tokens, being that I only have 2 left, to do enough damage with my wetwork blade to take whatever is there out. Otherwise, I might be in big time trouble. Off the top of the deck, we got ourselves a 1. That's going to be some grunts, and it says they have a cry of surprise. If there are any operatives in line of sight, make a 2 noise check in this zone. So the grunts that I sneaked up on ended up becoming surprised when I decided to just basically pull off my disguise right in front of them. They immediately are attracted by my attention, and then they have a cry of surprise where any token within 2 range away is going to flip from its green blip side to its patrol side. And that's unfortunate for me because this one right here is going to flip over to yellow and become a patrol. So we can definitely expect some company in the future. Right now, I need to deal with these individuals in the same space as me. I do have 2 order tokens on Kyle. I'm going to use one of them to make an attack. I'm going to be using the wetwork blade, which does 1 damage. And I have a special on it that says if you have cover or concealment, which I don't, attacks you make with this weapon deal an extra damage. Now the grunts again are just 1 apiece. So that's good news. I have just enough so long as I roll these dice well. So as you can see, I've spent a lot off of Kyle's available area. I moved 3 of the movement tokens down. I just moved an order token down in order to make the first attack. I do have the ability to get this passive ability, which allows me to use my wetwork blade and get cleave, which allows me to hit multiple individuals as part of a unit, which means if I land this attack, I won't have to try again with the last order token, which I'd prefer not to do. I don't want to put Kyle on the bleeding edge of exhaustion. So making this attack, 3 white dice coming from my base attack value, 2 from the wetwork blade, and a red die thanks to me discarding a focus token that matches what I'm doing. We're going to roll these and we're going to hope for good results. And just to increase the odds that I actually take these individuals out, I'm going to discard another focus token that doesn't match in order to get a white die, because that will bring me up to the full allotment of white dice I can potentially have in a roll, which is 6. We're going to roll all these dice. We're looking for a 4 as the defense of the grunts. Let's see how we do. Hopefully 4 is obtainable. As long as we get a really good roll off the red one, that should really help us out and deal with any white blanks we might get. Oh, wow, we got that. No problem at all. So that is going to be a cleave that wipes out both of the grunts. No issues there for Kyle beyond just burning a ton of action tokens. Out of the Valor bag, we have ourselves a +1 white die, which is pretty good. We also have from the prior video a reroll of a die, and we also have a wound heal as well. So a couple things sitting in a Team Valor pool that could come in handy later on. Now, something else I'd like to touch on is this area right here where we have 2 tokens that allow you to basically draw a card off of the top of the corresponding decks, whether it be regular weapons or Xethan weapons. Now, the cool thing about this is not only when you mess around with that electrical box are you messing with the grid, as I mentioned before, knocking out the cameras for a round, all that's happening for a single round. You're also dealing with the doors as well. You're kind of powering down the doors that are locked down, so they would flip over to the opposite side. So you could come through the door here and take a look inside. Of course, we have a patrol we'd have to deal with. But the other way to get into this area here would be to actually go through the vent system. And you can go here, take a science check, and you'll go through the vents, pop out over here in the enter area, move to exit, and then move over to the grid on the opposite side. So there's a lot of movement even beyond just what's structurally there in the building. You have some vents at your disposal to get you around, and that could keep you out of the corridors too, whether it's trying to avoid guards or it's potentially trying to get some good loot. I think what we're going to do here is going to have Olivia move, so she's going to use 1 of her movement tokens in order to get her next to the electrical box. And that's honestly all I want to do, because I want to be able to recoup 3 action tokens going into the refresh phase next time around. So we'll stop there for Olivia. Now for Marissa, I kind of want to get her in position to potentially help out Kyle for the patrol coming down the hallway in the future. So the patrol that I really have to be concerned about is this one that's round the corner down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Marissa actually use one of her movement tokens, maybe even, actually no, just one will be perfect. That'll give her the movement she needs to get to about here, and I'll keep her right here. Later on, she does have the ability to take a shot from range 1 to 3, which is not bad. If she's standing here, she could shoot all the way down to here, and I could also move her up to have her shoot further. So she can basically provide some long distance support if and when this yellow patrol token becomes aware and we know what it is and we can go after it. We'll take it down, and maybe I can do that at the same time as Kyle is in the same area, and we can kind of tag team taking it down. Of course, we're going to have to make sure that Olivia does her job and takes out the electrical box so that we have that one round to do all this without being sighted. That's going to do it in terms of my spending of tokens across my characters. Marissa still has 4 action tokens, and she has 3 order, 1 move, so she's got the most. But I'm still going to go ahead right now because it's a great time to do it and use my support token. It says that each operative can gain some focus tokens, which would be nice because we're actually quite low on all those across the board. So we're going to grab 2 each, flipping that over. I'll have Marissa stock up on those attack tokens. I'm going to have Kyle take one of the movement focus tokens as well as one of the attack focus tokens. So he's got a nice mix of all these. If I want during my turn with Kyle, you can actually discard 1 focus token with movement to gain 1 movement for free, which is nice. Olivia didn't have any focus tokens remaining. We definitely want to grab 2 science. She's got some science checks in her future. We now move into the enemy phase. First thing to do is the alarm check. Do we have any aware enemies out on the game board? No, we do not. So we skip past that. We don't have to worry about the portal token step at this point either. We now move to the movement of enemies. I'll first resolve this patrol right here, which will move 2 spaces towards the hand scanner. The patrol just above in the room is going to move 1 space north. It's going to crack the door open as it heads towards the exclamation point in the hallway where my operative Kyle is sitting. It's going to be able to draw a line of sight at that moment. We're going to go ahead and spawn to find out what this patrol is. And then again, because Kyle has a disguise on, we don't have to do a stealth check. It will continue its movement right into my space. Time to find out what we are spawning. A Reaver has shown up, and the patrol blip, of course, moves into the same space as me. Remember, those blips don't go away until the enemy is aware of me. As of right now, I still have my disguise on. I'm going to have to do a stealth check here in a moment, but first let's resolve the rest of the spawn card here. It does have an alarm symbol on it, or icon, so we do not have to do this ability right here, which would actually be quite nasty and throw bleed on me, but we won't have to worry about it because we haven't triggered the alarm yet. Now, one thing that does happen the second that enemies are in the same zone as an investigation token is they're going to gobble that token up, because that is the point of those patrols. They're moving towards those investigative tokens to be able to place them on the escalation track, which is going to make things more fun for me. This is the first time that a patrol has reached one of the exclamation points, so it is now on the escalation track. As it goes up the track, it will hit certain blips, which will then be brought into play. So we have extra patrols, we have elite patrols in red there that can come out, and of course the worst case scenario of the escalation track thematically, as the patrols are finding more evidence of us being in this facility, is the alarm triggering. So going into this stealth check, which I certainly want to do, we get 4 white dice to start things off. This card right here, the disguise, I'll read it to you because it does have some important information on it. It says when you move, you only have to make stealth checks against enemies in the same zone as you, and those enemies do not gain the normal +2 perception as part of the level that you're trying to hit when you do your stealth check. So the good news with this is because I have disguise on, by default, they don't get the +2 to the 2 that these actually are. Actually, you know what? This Reaver has 4. That makes it even worse. So basically the base perception on the Reaver card at the very top of the game board specific to that unit is a 4, has an eye symbol. It would normally get a +2 on top of that, which would make it a 6 if I was just a regular operative and it could see me. I would have to hit a 6 in order to stay out of its vision and stay hidden. But in this case, Kyle, because at least he has the disguise on, keeps it at 4, which is much more manageable. So what we're going to do now is make that actual stealth check. I'm going to go ahead. I've used a focus token to get a red die that matches the skill we're using. We've got 4 dice here in white because we were doing this stealth check, and we're going to go into it with just this and hope we can land it. I think that's enough dice. I am half tempted to burn something else, but I kind of want to hold on to them for later. Here's hoping this works out, and it's not a bad decision. All right, let's see if Kyle can hit that perception check. And again, I'll show you in a second what it looks like on the Reaver card, just so you understand where I'm getting that 4 from. But it's quite easy, just has an eye symbol. But oh my gosh, what a fantastic roll. So we are A-okay. We still remain stealthy. Now this is great because when you pass a stealth check, you do not have to do another stealth check if you are moving within line of sight of that unit in the future. So in other words, I've hidden myself well enough that this individual does not care anymore. However, if I leave its line of sight, like go around a corner, for instance, if I wrapped around here and then came back, I'd have to do that stealth check all over again. And just to clear things up, in terms of that corner example I just gave, a regular operative that turns the corner and goes out of line of sight and comes back into line of sight would be in trouble, whereas Kyle, because he has the disguise on, will only have to do that stealth check if I'm in the same space as one of those enemies. And just so you can see the card itself here, way at the very top, it has a green eye beside a 4. That is the perception value I had to hit in order to succeed at this. Again, it would have been a 6 if I didn't have the disguise. We now have any aware enemies activate. Thank goodness that I passed that stealth check because there are none on the game board currently. The escalation phase will be quite quick. We are going to skip this because the alarm has not been triggered, so we don't do any escalation. And in terms of adding any elite patrols to the spawn pool, the spawn step now is to spawn each blip in the spawn pool, but again, we don't have any. And then the cleanup step, which is basically just getting rid of any ongoing effects ending at the end of a round. So we're wrapping right back around to the refresh, and we didn't do a ton with our units, so we're really just going to gather up some new action tokens that I'm going to choose, and we're going to refresh our support token and get going. All right, tokens-wise, we're all set up. I've refreshed 3 for each of the operatives. I'm also going to take a look at my hand of cards from Marissa, which I had 5. I didn't use any because I haven't been using her much. I'm really setting her up to kind of give support down that corridor, but I have a card in here that allows me to refresh all my gear cards. That does sound nice because it would generate me more focus tokens, but the support token is currently helping with that, so I'll let this lock and load go for now, I think. This one does say perform an attack for free after refreshing, which if I used a movement focus token, which I don't have, so I think I'll let that one go. You can discard up to 1 during this refresh phase. We'll drop to 5, so this is right here. That's a little better. Adds more damage to an attack. That's really good. That should definitely be useful. So now we've got her all situated. Here's a quick look at Kyle's loadout in terms of the action tokens I have available for this upcoming round. And Olivia is all ready to go as well, being that she's going to be doing some science checks in the near future. The support token has also been refreshed. We're ready to move to the threat card. This one is nasty. This is called Stolen Valor. It says discard a number of Valor tokens from the Team Valor pool. I have 3 in there based on the threat level. Well, guess what? My threat level is 3 based on how many operatives I have in here. So guess what? All of those Team Valor tokens that I haven't used, they're gone. Now, I didn't necessarily need them based on what I was doing over the last couple rounds, although they could have potentially benefited a couple rolls. I just chose not to use them and hope that I'd be able to keep them for a later, more important roll. But this is a great example of how the game will get you for trying to hold on to things for later on. It is going to dip into that Team Valor pool at times, so you're going to want to use these as often as you can because, well, if you just lose out on them, you don't get those benefits. The on-point operative is now Kyle, and we head into a brand new round of actions. Now, this and how it pans out timing-wise is going to be really interesting. So what I'm going to have Kyle do is he's going to attempt to head south, and of course, as soon as I get into the same space as this other patrol, it will spawn. But again, I'm going to have to do a stealth check and hope that I pass it to not tip them off. I'm also going to have Olivia there next to the electrical box who's going to try and mess with it so I can get Kyle as far through the grid and along down the corridor towards the warehouse with the bomb as possible. We'll see whether this all pans out or whether things go sideways on me. Now, this is the perfect time to use the strategy of espionage. The ability that I have here, the hack communications, allows me to use this token once per mission. It's a one-time use token. I get to place it anywhere that's not in line of sight of an enemy, and it basically becomes an exclamation point for the purposes of patrols moving towards things. Now, you want to place this token in a way in which strategically it's going to be closer to the patrols than the exclamation points, mainly because you are trying to divert the patrols down a particular path. And as you can see here, this patrol, so what I'm focused on is it's going to make a choice which way it's going to go. And as of right now, if it heads this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's only 6 away from that versus going the other way around, which I believe it's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so it's going to head this way. I don't want it to head that way. I've got Marissa right here, and I'd rather just completely avoid it and have them take the long way around. This is going to help me later on, and when I need to come back to the extraction point, it'll give us a clear path back and hopefully waste a lot of time with them going around us versus straight through us as we're trying to get back. So this is where I'm going to place that particular token right here. Now you might think that's a really bad idea when the patrols start to move. Won't this one move and drop on top of the token and take it away? Yes, but you get to choose which patrol moves first. So when you start moving patrols, you could then choose to move this one first, so it would head towards the signal. Then this one would move, gobble it up, and boom. At that point, this thing is going to be heading around as it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And at that point, it's a choice because they're equal distance. So my plan will have worked in terms of which way I'd like to divert the patrols, keeping them more north than south. So that should work nicely. It is now Olivia's time to shine as she is going to interact with this electrical box. We are going to try to sabotage this thing to take things down for a full round. So to go ahead and do this sabotage action, we have to spend one of the order tokens, which I've just gone ahead and done. We're going to use the bypass kit at the same time, which allows me to gain a red die when performing sabotage actions. That's a great one that comes from, if I'm not mistaken, the strategy which we chose. So this is going to be a plus, and then we're also going to discard one of the science tokens, and that's going to line up with the type of check we're doing. Now on the token for the electrical box, in the prototype, it doesn't show a number, a check level we're supposed to hit numerically, but inside the rulebook, it states 4, and that will be on the final token in the final version. So it is 4 we're going after. So 2 red should really give us a heads up, a good chance at least of that. And then we got 4 science, which is one of the major reasons why I'm using Olivia here, because she's just so pumped up on that regard. She is going to most likely deal with this pretty easily. All right, let's see if we're able to get ourselves the 4 we need in order to take things down for a full round. That's going to knock out the security cameras. It's going to knock out the laser grid. That should really help out Kyle as he's making his way around. Of course, the camera is not really a big deal for me right now with my disguise, but still, the grid. Oh yeah, easy. That is enough. That grid is going down. So Olivia's work on sabotaging the electrical box has been successful. It's taken down a security door here, which is open for a round. It has taken down the laser grid. It's also shut off every single security camera, which means we could get some motion or movement here with my other operatives if I so choose. However, that's not really the plan right now. The plan is to get Kyle moving as quickly as possible. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a bunch of movement tokens here to get him past that grid before it turns back on. So I have 2 right here, which will generate 4 movement. So I'm going to use both of those. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, putting them right on top of where the grid is. And then we're going to burn the focus token for movement at the same time, giving him 1 extra to be able to go that extra space to get right here. Now, as soon as Kyle rounds the corner on his way over to use all that movement, he immediately is going to spawn the patrol. The spawner drones say, threat detected, move the nearest exclamation point to the escalation track. Give this unit an Overwatch token. The nearest token was the one just outside of the door over here. I've removed it. It's going on the escalation track. There's also an enemy Overwatch token placed on these guys, so I definitely do not want them to become aware, but it's gonna force me to do a stealth check as I move through them. Now this is going to get tricky. Kyle moves into the same space as these spotter drones as he's trying to use all the movement that I want to spend to get to here. Now the fun part is with this is that these spotter drones, they're not blind. They have a perception of 4. So that's going to be a higher target. Well, it's going to be very much like the Reaver. Actually, the 2 that I pulled were the 2 highest perceptions between the Reaver and the spotter drones out of the 4 green cards that I have. The grunts only have a perception of 2 and the heavies only have a perception of 2. So I've gotten the worst one to run into so far. This stealth check is a little more scary because I don't have a stealth focus token I can get a red die off of, so I'm really banking on just white dice, which is a tad scary. Now, one thing I didn't notice in the prior stealth check that would have helped me out if I don't remember off the top of my head if I was at my cap of white dice, but I do have 1 that comes off the tactical armor, so I might have had 1 additional white die to roll with that, but I didn't need it. Here, I definitely want it. We've got 4 white dice here, 1 coming from the tactical armor, and what I could do is discard this focus token right here. This will give me another white die, and that'll put me up to my maximum of 6, and that'll just increase the chances I can hit the 4. Remember, if I get too many blanks in this roll, that is going to be really, really bad. This is a pretty crucial role depending on how things pan out. Now, reminder that the spotter drones are not really that tough to get through once we've alerted them, but still kind of a pain because Kyle basically at this point is, well, I guess he has less actions to use, only 2 order tokens left, but I do still have Marissa just waiting around the corner. She could pop out, take a step forward or so, and take some shots, which could help, but hopefully we can avoid all of that. That's what I'm hoping. We'll see if that's possible. Here we go. And actually, you know what? Before I make this roll, I just remembered we got a support token, and maybe I'll use it. maybe I'll use it before we do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use a support token, and I'm going to burn it in order to gain the 2 focus tokens, and that's going to give me the ability to bring 2 of these tokens into my pool. So that's actually a huge plus, and I will use one of them for now because I want to keep another one for later on to bring a red in. So that was a good thing to do. Marissa's already maxed out at 3 focus tokens, so she can't take any more. And what I'll do is just add maybe a science over to Olivia. She already has 1 science, so that'll be 2. And then maybe an attack token. Actually, I changed my mind with her. I grabbed a science and a movement because I think at some point I'm going to want to get her out of that room quickly. So giving her some extra movement could help. All right, getting that extra die in there could be really handy. Let's see how this goes. Come on, please avoid any pain. Oh yeah, that's good. That is very good. Okay, we are A-okay. So they don't know we're there, which means I can continue burning the movement that I planned with Kyle, getting him all the way to here. All right, not bad at all. And even if the cameras come back online, he's got his disguise on, so those cameras will not pick him up in any way, shape, or form. He is in the same space as a camera, but again, a camera is different than a unit. It's only if he's in the same space as an enemy that he'd have to do the stealth check. If he's in the same space as the camera, I don't know of any rule that states I have to do a stealth check in that situation. Now, I could be wrong there, but that's my understanding of what I've seen in the prototype rules here. So that is where we're at. We're going to have Marissa step out now that these drones are a little bit further along and take some shots. She's going to use one of her movement actions to get out into the corridor. She's now moved into position, and of course, because she's in line of sight of these enemies, they're going to become aware of her. I'm not even going to try to do any kind of stealth check whatsoever against them. I'm going to make sure that they're surprised. We're going to try to kill them. Now, the best part about the enemy Overwatch token is that it's only really good if they become surprised and alert and aware of our presence, but then they can actually reach us. And currently, when they're targeting, they can only target up to 2 spaces away, so I'm too far away. So this token has no benefit for them whatsoever, even though they had it on them. So that's a plus. So good strategy on my part to stay far enough away to make sure that Overwatch token that would then trigger right now when they become aware of me does absolutely nothing. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and spend an order token. We're going to do some shots. All right, here we go. Now we have to deal with the fact that these guys have additional armor here. So when we're attacking these things, they have a defense of 4 normally, but they're going to have +1 because they have fortified defenses. So 5 is what we're going for here in terms of their defense. I've got 4 white dice. I've got 1 red because I'm burning a discard, or I'm burning a focus token, I should say. And then I'm going to use heavy fire. This one here says play when making a ranged attack to gain AoE. So now my attack is going to hit all of them in there. They're only 1 health each. So if I land this hit, they're all gone, which would be awesome. And then we can get ourselves a Valor token. And actually that reminds me, when Olivia did the sabotaging of this electrical box over here, we should have grabbed a Valor token. So let's go ahead and do that. You don't want to forget to get Valor tokens for sabotaging. That's a huge plus. Maybe it'll give me something I can use right now. That would be pretty cool. No, we got ourselves something that'll help us with wounds later on. We'll put that up in the Team Valor area. But let's go ahead and roll these dice and see how we do. Now, technically, it says to gain a white die here, too. And just so you know, if I had a movement focus token, I could push it even further. But I don't have any friendly units in this space, so there's no benefit there. Let's go ahead and see how we do. Oh, yeah, that's good, right? 5, 6, 7, easy. That's good. So they had 5 defense. We got 7. So those 2 have been shot up. All right, so she cleaned that up pretty nicely. I'm also going to have Marissa go ahead and spend another movement token or to go back into her position where she was before so she doesn't get spotted by the camera when it goes back online. So Marissa has ducked back behind the wall so that the security camera can't see her. We got a Valor token here. This allows me to draw a card with every operative, but again, the only deck that's in play is for Marissa as I'm playing her at full capacity. I'll go ahead and use it right now because I have the availability in my hand to do so, up to 5. Let's see what we get. Steady hand. Play before making an attack to gain a red die. If this is an AoE attack, gain 2 dice. And you can up the damage. That is going to be a handy one, especially if we want to try and take down the Reaver. So that was a great card to get. Long story short, that worked out really, really well. Now, that could have gone sideways at a couple different points here, but we got lucky. We had the cards we needed. We used the tokens smart, and we were able to come out with it without alerting any of the patrols, even though we found out who they were. We were able to take down some of them, and my strategy of kind of keeping Marissa around the corner over here, out of the camera's range, popping around, taking some shots, just removed one of the patrols. So the only one we have to deal with in the future is the Reaver on that side of the board, which makes things a little bit less painful. Now, there's still other ways things can come out because there's spawn tokens all over the place. We have a 2 spawn here, a 3 spawn over there. Like, things can still come out, but thinning the herds is good, especially once we start blowing the place up and we need to get back to this extraction point. Now, as we go forward, I'm only going to resolve the things that actually make sense to resolve. I won't even speak to the things that we don't have to resolve, so we'll just start flying through this in-between phase. The Reaver moves towards the false signal, so that worked out beautifully. This token gets taken off, and we might as well just take the card out of the equation because we don't get this ability anymore, but it did its job, and we didn't even need it in the end because the plan, well, we killed those things before they even turned the corner anyway, but we didn't know how things were going to pan out. It worked out either way, but it was nice to always have that backup plan. The power at this point has come back on, so the grid is alive, the cameras are all back up, the security door has been sealed in this room. So we zip through all the in-between phases, we're back to the refresh phase, we dealt with all the tokens, the cards, anything that's been used has come back up, like the support token, and we're ready to grab the next threat card. Let's see what this is. It says the on-point operative suffers vulnerable. Oh, that's not good. The on-point operative right now is Kyle. Now there's likely a token for this, but I placed the card underneath the dashboard to remind me. This vulnerable thing is pretty nasty. Every time I take a wound, I take an additional wound. So we really don't want to have that happen to the individual who is most trusted with the bomb for us to succeed. And now the on-point marker moves up to Marissa. All right, it's time to get moving here. Going into the next action phase, Kyle's going to use some movement because he really wants to get down that hallway. If he uses 2 movement tokens, he'll get in the same space as this blip here. The second he gets to here, though, he's going to spawn it because he's within line of sight. So let's go ahead and spend those 2 tokens and we'll get moving. We've got ourselves a heavy up there. That's not good. This one says bombardment, but the alarm has to be triggering to do it, so we don't have to worry about that effect. That's good. Kyle ends his movement in the same space. We're not going to do a stealth check. Remember, Olivia messed with the electrical box, so we're going to get a benefit based on the fact there is no power in this building whatsoever. It's actually a benefit I forgot about when I was trying to succeed at the spotter drones earlier. It's going to make this check even easier because everything has been blacked out currently. So way up at the very top of the game board, a perception of 2 for the heavy, which is not that great. I already have a 2 perception, so I was about to spend a focus token in order to succeed, but because everything has been blacked out thanks to Olivia messing with the power box, we don't even need to spend this focus token because we have a guaranteed win anyway. So we'll take that away and I'll just say we've got it because we did. We successfully passed. So really the only individuals that are going to notice us are going to be spotter drones, the Reaver, or any of the elite individuals that could come out in the future, which thank goodness hopefully they don't. But the grunts and the heavies, they're a little bit dumb in terms of seeing past my disguise. I still have another movement action with Kyle that I can use. We need to crack the door and get into the room, so we might as well go ahead and do that. So here's what's been found in the 2 locations that I can draw line of sight from. We have some grunts up top and we have some spotter drones down below. The spotter drones here get Overwatch and they're going to be placing a investigation token in the nearest operative zone. So that's unfortunate. That's going to draw the patrols. Well, it won't actually affect things too much because they're so close to other investigative tokens elsewhere and there's no real patrols on this side, so it's not so bad. So we'll go ahead and place an investigative token up there. And then in terms of the grunts, they're going to be dug in. They have a barricade token, which basically gives them a cover 1. Now, I currently don't have the barricade tokens with me at the moment, so we'll just remember that in case it comes into play. And we're going to go ahead and actually move, because I just opened the door we're going to move to. Having this disguise has been pretty awesome. Another line of sight drawn to this token right here, which ends up being another heavy coming in. This is a fortified position heavy, so we place a barricade token in here as well. So both of these have barricade tokens for cover 1 and an Overwatch token. Well, this room got really exciting really quick, and just so you guys know, the cover tokens, they were in the prototype. I can't find them currently. They're here somewhere, but they almost look like building blocks in terms of the iconography for them. It looks like sandbags on top of each other, basically, but we'll remember it's for this one and this one here. As of right now, I'm still in disguise because Kyle has that disguise on until I run into the same space as one of these units. They're all stationary units, though. They're not patrols at this point in time because I haven't made any noise to turn them into a patrol, so let's try and avoid that. We're going to go to the back corner here in the future. Now, as of right now, I have no more movement with Kyle. That's probably as much as I want to strain him. We'll make the big push later on. Now, Olivia and Marissa have a little bit of time here, so we're going to set ourselves up a little trap. What we're going to do is we're going to have Olivia use 2 movement to move up to that top right-hand corner, but just before I move into it, so I'll move 1, 2, and then 3, I'll stop right here. I'll use an order token from Olivia in order to power up the holo projector and place this right here. So the 2 movement will give us 4 all the way to here, which is going to block up the camera so that nobody knows we're even there, which is perfect. And this is going to allow now Olivia to use another 2 movement to leave this space, 1, 2, heading back into here to be ready to use this in the future. Again, nobody knows we're here. We don't have to make any stealth checks because the cameras have been blacked out based on this holo projector. And just so you can understand what it does, it says to place the holo field token in a target zone up to 2 away. Unaware enemies may not draw line of sight into or through that zone. So they don't know that we're here. It works for everything. It's really good. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to spend a movement token with Marissa to go up top here, and then Marissa is going to drop one of her remote explosives in this zone. It costs Marissa 2 actions to get to where she needs to be. Again, she's protected thanks to that hollow projector that Olivia put down. She drops a remote explosive, which is one of 3 that she's carrying for free down in her zone. Later, she can then use an order token to remotely detonate it, and it will do 3 damage, which is substantial because the Reaver its health is 1 plus the number of operatives, so it's 4. It won't kill it, but it certainly will put a huge hit on it. One of the reasons I want to hit this thing without us being around is it has a really nasty defensive ability that after you attack it, it then goes after or gets an activation to try to attack somebody. So I want to be able to hit this thing remotely and not be in its purview or close enough to it to have it strike back at us fast. So we'll put Marissa over here in the corner, and what we're going to do now is we're going to spend an order token. So I've used 2 movement with Marissa to make that move in there, drop the remote explosive, then come back. She's going to use an order token now in order to go into Overwatch, which is going to help her because the second that that unit comes around the corner, she's going to be able to take a first attack at it after she remotely detonates that bomb, which should, in combination, be enough to take it out before it has a chance to do anything nasty to us. So that ended up being a really cool use of resources, and there's one other thing I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and use a support token before I end off the player actions in order to gain some tokens. I'm going to be placing movement tokens on Kyle. He's got 2 focus token slots available. Both are going to be movements because I want him to be able to run as fast as possible. I'll put a attack focus token on Marissa to fill her up completely, and Olivia's already set. Now, based on the fact that I had some movement focus tokens with Kyle, I'm going to go ahead and spend one of them in order to move 1 space south, and then the other one to move again down to where the heavy is. And as we know, under the cover of darkness, we already have the advantage of 2 successes when I only need to get a 2 on the perception test because I have the disguise on, so we pass this test, no worries here, and the Overwatch token is not going to trigger. Now, I did make one mistake in terms of movement. I'm going to retroactively move Olivia back 1 space because if we are out of range of the hollow token we've placed down, then it wouldn't have operated correctly. We need to have it within line of sight for it to be operable. So we're going to have actually her go back to here so that everything stays intact. Also, as a free action on Olivia's turn, she can take that token away, which is what I'm going to do right now. We're going to remove that token so that way the individual coming down the corridor, which is the Reaver, when it lands in that space with the remote detonating bomb, it's not going to become aware and surprised. It would otherwise if this token was still in here. So you want to strategically use it and pull that token away. And the only 2 ways it can disappear is if, of course, at the end of the round, you are not within line of sight of it, or if you choose as a free action to remove it, which I'm going to do right now. So moving into the enemy phase, the first thing we're going to do, the only thing to resolve at this point is moving those patrols. So that Reaver is heading into that corner spot. All right, so I've gone ahead and gathered up my dice pool for the stealth check. We have 2 going into it automatically. We also are going to go ahead and discard 1 focus token in order to get a white die in the pool. We have 3 here for these 3 that we have right off of Olivia's gear and her characters. So 4 white dice. We're really looking for 2 successes because the perception here of the Reaver is 4. And we've got 2 already. We got it, so we're good there. That's good news. So they didn't see, or it didn't see Olivia. Now let's check for Marissa. Marissa's got 4. We're going to stick with... Marissa has 2 successes already, 4 white dice going into the stealth check. Let's see how we do. We got what we need, so we're still in the quiet. The ability to have the lights off because we messed with the electrical box was a huge advantage, getting those 2 successes for free. So we've wrapped all the way around to the refresh phase here. I've got my actions back up allotted for each. We'll refresh this token here for support as well. Olivia is also all squared away in terms of her actions. She really went for a lot of movement recouping. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up part number 2 for Earth Under Siege. Join me in the next video, which will be the finale for this mission number 4, as we deal with the back half of the mission. Now that we've cleared a path, we just need to have things sync up nicely at the end, although there are probably going to be some surprises as we go through here when the alarm is triggered and the bomb goes off. We're going to be diving back to the extraction point as fast as possible. So join me as we go through a threat card, change the on-point operative over to Olivia, and then move right into the rest of the play to wrap up this series. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you've thought of the series thus far and the gameplay, and I'll see you in the next episode. And as always, keep on rolling solo.